Welcome to the Infernal Schoolhouse Podcast, Explosions and Fire. I'm Bryan.
And I'm Aaron.
And today on the podcast, we're excited to be speaking with Alicia Figliuolo, Director of Education and Training with Geek Therapeutics. Welcome to the podcast, Alicia.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So first off, can you please introduce Geek Therapeutics to our audience and then how you came to be involved with the group?
Yeah, so Geek Therapeutics is a continuing education agency and therapy service that provides education to therapists, teachers, parents, mental health professionals, and advocates and everyday gamers who want to learn about the evidence-based intersectionality between therapeutic play and gaming, as well as geek culture and pretty much anything that you can put on a t-shirt or hang on a wall. I have a CE or a continuing education credit hour for that. Our mainstay in this community is teaching that gaming and geek culture absolutely has a place in the therapeutic spaces with therapy and gaming as a whole, or really engaging and entertaining fandom or pop culture. And on the therapy side, we have a full house of therapy services provided by board certified therapists in nearly every state in the country. And we primarily provide therapy through the lens of geek culture and utilizing things like tabletop role-playing games in therapy as a modality of choice to process trauma, stress, PTSD, and everyday stressors that are going on in everyone's life throughout the entire lifespan. I came to Geek Therapeutics as an individual who went through the Certified Therapeutic Game Master program when it was in its original cohort and when it was starting, because I'm a veteran and I created a program for veterans to be able to process trauma like PTSD, reunification with family, coming back from war, and having to deal with all of the things that come with coming home. And I created a program through a therapeutic modality called acceptance commitment therapy, which teaches mindfulness and resiliency through the tenets of this modality. And Instagram, Facebook were probably listening to me and picked up that I had been having these conversations with other therapists in my circle and creators. And I got an ad for this program. And no joke, I was like, this is not real. This is crazy. Like, one, I've been doing this already for 2 years or a year and a half at that time. And now this is an evidence-based program. So I reached out to Dr. Bean, enrolled in the class, and was blown away. And here I am. That was in 2021 and it's 2024. And I'm the Director of Education and Training of the agency that I truly believe in from an education standpoint and a curriculum standpoint, all the way to training everyday game masters to people who have never touched D&D, like a teacher or an administrator or even a therapist, on how to engage with tabletop role-playing games and geek culture to help people find the best version and the most authentic versions of themselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah.
Wow. It seems like you've said that a couple times.
Not in that
have the
order,
language
but I
nailed
do
down.
talk about it a lot. When you love your job
Yeah.
and you really believe in what you're doing and believe in who you're teaching and how you're teaching it, and then seeing those individuals who've come through your programs just change lives, it doesn't become repetitive. It really becomes everything that you embody. And you could ask it 1,000 different ways and I could give you 1,000 different answers, but it'll all come across the same, because I truly believe in what we're doing and the evidence that backs it up to everyone who is going forth and teaching it to other people in their sessions, their classrooms, and, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really, I love what I do. And it just kind of rolls out when you're passionate about the thing that you get paid to create.
Yeah, your passion is obvious, and I share your passion, although from a very different perspective. I've just had this idea for years that there's so much potential therapy or so much potential at gaming tables, and I've seen it play out in little ways, and I've always wondered. And so I love when you talk about evidence-based, because I've just been striving for that, this idea of like, I know it's there and I want to know more about that. Love it. Okay, so my question is, you provide therapy sessions via D&D and training for existing therapists. Does one side or the other have a greater emphasis with your organization?
No. So I am not part of the therapy side. I don't currently have practice. I don't see clients. My clients are my students. And so my students are all either PhDs, therapists, teachers, et cetera, professionals or gamers. And so each side of the house is different. My boss, Dr. Anthony Bean, is the clinical director over the therapy side of the house, and I'm the director over the education side. And they're two very different spaces, but intertwine when it comes to the different types of therapy services that our certified geek therapists are providing nationwide.
I see. Cool. Thank you.
That's incredible. So, I mean, I think I have my own opinion on this one, but I would love to hear it from you. But, we're a TTRPG podcast, and we ourselves know the usefulness, I think, of playing role-playing games. But how is it valuable in a therapeutic process?
So that's a loaded question. And first, before we even can get into what that answer looks like, it has to be noted that therapy and therapeutic are not one and the same. And many clinicians will say that's not true. Therapy and therapeutic are one and the same. And I will die on that hill. It is not. I will be the dice dragon that stands on top of my hoard and screams from the rooftop that therapy and therapeutic are not the same. So D&D, or any TTRPG for that matter, in therapeutic spaces, is therapeutic the moment you sit down with a group of friends and start rolling dice and creating a collaborative story together and engaging in that journey as a collective. And that can be as benign as hanging out and just telling stories. And it can be as impactful as an individual exploring and learning to identify their own identity. And I bring that up because there are very big points over the last 50 years where D&D specifically has been turning points for men and women who have explored their own identity in gaming, and it has been therapeutic since the beginning. So when you look at therapy versus therapeutic, it's always therapeutic. What the three of us are doing right now is therapeutic. I may not know you from Adam, but we are engaging in a conversation that is going to hopefully at the end bring us all a lot of joy. And that's therapeutic because we're talking and engaging. On the therapy side, when we look at A plus B equals C, A and B are therapeutic lenses. They are modality and treatment planning. They're bringing people together for a common goal to move forward in something. And when we provide therapy in TTRPG, it's because there is a lens that provides a treatment plan, a person or persons, and a goal that everybody is marching towards. And in that, the stories are crafted and created to help move that goal along in order to learn a new coping skill and be real world facing and be able to deal with that in the real world, but first experience the challenge and lack of consequences inside a fantastical space. And I know that kind of gets a little tangential when you start breaking down the nuances of what a TTRPG in therapy is versus therapeutic. But to answer the question in its most simplest form, is TTRPGs or any collaborative storytelling experience is always therapeutic. And if it's done with mindfulness, it can be beautiful and can be so healing for people just by telling a story together and knowing that a few people have your back. And it might just be maybe once a month or once every other week, but they have your back. And that is where the therapeutic light bulb starts to pop. But then I have to use a disclaimer and say, being at a table doesn't mean that you're getting therapy. And nobody should ever say that Dungeons and Dragons or Vampire are my therapy, because that puts a lot of ethical issues on the game master or the storyteller that shouldn't be there. So there is a fine line between when does it become therapeutic. I believe it's always therapeutic. I think the question really lays in the line of when does it become therapy, because the two are so drastically different.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you for drawing that distinction. That's very helpful in my mind as well, because I do feel like the moment you sit down with your friends and you start to play the game, there is a therapeutic process going on. And I just love that distinction versus therapy specifically. Could you walk us through, as a person seeking therapy, could you walk us through how one would join one of the games? Is it available for anyone? And then, yeah, I'm just interested. And I'm asking this selfishly too, because I'm very, very interested.
Sure. So the way it works is our therapy offices are called Reforged Gamer. And for the end of the show, I'll give it to you for the show notes. But you can go to geektherapeutics.com or you can go to reforgedgamer.com and move through the process of finding, if you're looking specifically for tabletop role-playing therapeutic gaming and group processing, it is not therapy, it is group work, and everybody is moving through the same goal. We match you with people who are working on the same goals to make sure that the mental health provider that is providing the game is able to make sure that your therapist, because most people should have a therapist if you're coming in to process in a therapeutic setting, that your therapist has a conversation with you about coming into it. And then you go through an assessment and you get assessed just as you would in a therapy office. And then you get assigned your game provider. And then from there is proprietary gaming. Sometimes there's games through already created modules that you play through to help process whatever is going on in that group goal. Sometimes it is individuals who are on the spectrum and they're wanting to work on people skills and outside communication and self-advocacy. And they're in a group that is helping them engage with the people around them so they can go and engage with the world around them in a more safe way with new coping skills. Sometimes it's individuals who are dealing with post-traumatic stress or everyday stressors, and they're wanting to be able to experience the events that have led them to trauma in a safe space so they can process it a little easier. And each of those clinicians who are dealing with each of the groups are working solely with that group on that single goal. Then it is everybody along the lifespan. When you sign up with us and you go through your intake, you're put into groups that are age appropriate, and you work with them for 6, 9, and 12 weeks, I think. And insurance, for people who are covered with insurance, we do accept most major insurances. You have to deal with, of course, any someone at our insurance office who will walk you through that step, but it's extremely accessible. And for those who don't have insurance, it's $30 a session. So it's cheaper than an everyday therapy appointment because we're not providing therapy. We're providing therapeutic gameplay to allow you to learn new coping skills and strategies like you would in any group session. And a lot of mindfulness and resiliency and so many factors that come with the skill building that comes with learning how to play a TTRPG, as well as taking life experiences and turning them out into the real world. So it's a very simple process. You can get put into a system, fill out a quick form, have an assessment done, have an intake with one of our clinical providers, and then in a group within days, and starting with a group that may be already established or a new group that is coming straight from assessment into a new session.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you.
So, I know that we've talked a little bit about the therapeutic standpoint of it, for the players or for any sort of patients or any other terms we'd want to use for them.
Sure.
But I would ask about the therapists themselves, and then how do they get involved with learning these therapeutics, and then how do they get started with the process?
Great question. The Therapeutic Game Master program, I feel, is my baby, and I'm very attached to it. So I can talk about it till I'm blue in the face. And it's so easy. You go into our website, you can go to therapeuticgamemaster.com, or you can go to Geek Therapeutics, click down on training programs, and it'll open up to the Therapeutic Game Master program. You scroll down, you look at our current enrollment. Right now, we have 3 classes open for July. August, I was trying to do the month in my head. August is going to open here in a couple weeks, and you click on the date that's most available for you. It's a 36-hour program broken up in 9 weeks. You have 18 hours of online pre-recorded lecture training where you have all the evidence, all of the history, the evidence, how to build a therapeutic encounter, how to expand on a therapeutic world, how you can determine the differences between therapy versus therapeutic, because I truly believe in iron sharpening iron. So all of our classes are open to clinical, non-clinical, and subclinical people. So when you sign up, you may be in a class with clinicians. You may be in a class that is completely mixed and has everyday gamers, teachers, parents, and clinicians. Or you might be in a class that is just all everyday game masters wanting to learn how to be more mindful and aware of what they're approaching in their own stories. So you sign up, you pick the date that's best for you. We offer we have all evening classes at 6 p.m. Central Time. And then if you're looking for a daytime class, we offer a lunchtime class because most of our teachers or therapists can take some time out in the middle of the day for continuing education. Or we have a Saturday and Sunday class, and once every 9 weeks, a Sunday class opens up, and once every 9 weeks, a Saturday class opens up. And it's just as easy as well. We often run specials between 10 and 20% off. I think right now, if you go to the website and you sign up for our newsletter that you get twice a month, I think there's a 10% off coupon in there right now. Don't quote me, but I do believe it is going on right now. And then on top of that, every month, twice a month, you get a newsletter that shares something going on at Geek Therapeutics. And then on the opposite 2 weeks, you get a newsletter called Geeky XP, which is all therapeutic intervention on how to use things like tabletop role-playing games, television shows like Hey Dude and Dragon Ball Z, and then how to experience or interact with other games in therapeutic or therapy spaces. So it's super encompassing and it's super easy to enroll. You can enroll right now. I can see I've got 8 classes open, or 8 seats open up over the next 3 classes. And they're great. You get one instructor. There's only 6 people in the class. So it's very intimate because we truly believe that for you to have a therapeutic setting, having more than 6 players is too much. And truly the sweet spot is 4. So we leave it at 6 so you can see what the max looks like. And then you get to learn what it feels like to be the game master, and the player of a group of between 4 and 5 people.
I'm embarrassed right now because I've been following your group for a while.
Don't be embarrassed.
Well, I was convinced that the training that you provide in this space is only for clinicians.
Oh, that makes me sad. That's my bad because I do all of our ads and I try really hard to make sure that non-clinical and subclinical is there. So thank you for telling me that. And
Yeah, well, I
make sure
will
to fix
also
that language.
say, Aaron knows this. I'm not the closest reader sometimes. And so, that's on me. But my next question that I wrote is, do you provide GM training for non-clinicians? And so
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw my face when you were talking, but I was like, what? Like I
Yeah.
genuinely didn't know that. And I am so interested on a personal level in engaging with this because I feel these really special moments at the table, specifically when I'm the GM, when I see like the wet eyes, I call it, when I can just feel like something's been triggered and it's really good or it's really bad or it's really unclear to me what's happening. And it feels really vulnerable. And I want to honor it and I want to understand it better. So I'm so excited to hear you say this. And I'm going to be on the website like in about 20 minutes or so after this.
I love that. In week 2, so week 1 is all about vulnerability and week 2 is all about self-advocacy. And we teach all the same. It doesn't matter if you've been playing D&D for 50 years. You come in and you get a brand new slate because D&D or TTRPGs in a therapeutic or applied setting is not the same as everyday game at the table. And you have to learn how to manipulate rules as written to be more like the rule of cool, but the rule of applied evidence-based TTRPGs. And so I kind of wipe everybody's brain. My trainers make sure that everybody is controlled to the player's handbook. You only get the first 5 species. You only get the first 5 classic classes because we want to make sure that everybody understands on the same level without bringing in Tasha or anything from Ravnica and complicating it.
Right.
And so everything in the first 2 weeks is about self-advocacy and vulnerability. And exactly what you said, those moments are therapeutic, and having that moment of vulnerability where you can see the glass in the eye and you start to feel that ping in your chest because you don't really know what to move through next. And you can kind of cut it like a knife through butter. That is the moment where the most pure collaborative story is happening. And most time players don't really know it. And DMs or GMs don't know how to qualify that in their mind on how to move forward. And we teach that. We teach the ability to move through those with honoring and showing a spotlight or a highlight on the character, the player, the team, what have you, and really honing in on that. So you're not just leaving those moments hanging where people feel deflated at the end. So I love that you brought that up because it's a big part of training, and we instill that very quickly to have people have that all the way through their 9-week journey.
I'm so excited about this. And honestly, I DM'd a one-on-one game for the first time, and it was with my romantic partner, so that colored it a little bit. But as I was reading the final lines of the module, I started crying. And and she looks at me and she goes, "I don't understand your tears." And I looked back at her and said, "I don't understand them either." But there was just something really cool and special happening in that moment, and I would love to unpack that. And that was like for me kind of a microcosm of that dynamic that I felt at the table so many times. So I'm really thrilled.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
So besides obviously naming names here, could you maybe give us any sort of stories you have about someone who's benefited from these types of therapeutics, whether it's an elevator pitch or anything you just want to throw our way and, make it sound awesome?
We'll take it.
Man, that's like, I have so many of them. I don't want to trauma dump, so I won't scar any of the listeners.
Fair enough.
One recently was with a trainer or a person in the class who was coming in to be trained. And we were talking about, I offer a Q&A to our daytime classes. And during the Q&A, we were talking about when does it become therapeutic? And we were talking just about instances that had happened in their campaign. And they're running through Wild Beyond the Witchlight. And I love being able to talk about modules that nobody really knows are therapeutic because we don't know where the people at WotC or Humble or Humblewood or any of these places are at in their personal lives. But as the provider, I can read between the lines and know that, man, something was really going on when this person was writing this segment. And Wild Beyond the Witchlight is such a beautiful module that is so therapeutic and so psychologically written that I wish I could talk to the creators and talk to WotC and find out like what was going on, because this individual is a lay person and they were in this moment where they were with a mirror of reflection. And in the mirror, there were two characters were there, and one character didn't see anything. And the other character, this clergy member, had seen a question come out of, is there anything you regret? And I didn't watch it. My trainer didn't tell me about it. This actually comes from the layperson in our Q&A. And he says that, no, I don't regret anything. Like, I think everything is fine. And then he said in that moment, he paused and his brain said, I wish I had more time. And if I wanted to be all dramatic, I'd put you on like a little cliffhanger and then guide us in. But for lack of tears and heart palpitations, he said, I wish I just had more time. And in his brain, all of a sudden, he started to have this moment of, I wish I had more time with my brother. And his brother had been lost tragically. And he just started going through this moment. And I'm sitting there listening, trying not to cry, because as the director of education, the curriculum, I have built this application side of the curriculum, and everything they're learning in the application phase of the 36 hours, because it's in real time, which I didn't say. You have 18 hours of online training, and then you have 18 hours of online via Zoom in-person training. And I'm trying not to weep in front of these men who have never met me. They just get a bunch of emails from me throughout the 9 weeks. And he continues to tell the story of he just wished he had more time. And his colleagues in the class had no idea that was going on. And the trainer didn't know. And I said, have you told anybody this? And he said, no, because it just dawned on me today that that's the therapeutic moment. And I didn't know it. And I said, yes, that is the therapeutic moment. That is when TTRPGs become therapeutic, because your brain starts to move through this process of, wow, what if, how, when, where, and you start to feel in your heart a little bit more than just the character. And you start to bleed through that character. And that's one. I mean, I have so many anecdotes. There's another with some children who are in a state school, and they have been playing TTRPGs after a trainer came through, and he's changed their lives from being like the worst of the worst kids in America to being kids who want to be in their therapy. They want to engage with the TTRPG because they're playing in something that is allowing them to process things that they've never been able to say out loud, because there's a piece of vulnerability when we play as players, and to be able to express that in the third person is so cathartic. And when you're young, you don't know what those words are. And some of those boys have graduated and they thought they'd never graduate. So that's really cool to know that that's changed people's lives. And I trained an entire college campus group that does it's called CAPS on a college campus, and they are now holding TTRPGs at their university for kids who are coming through CAPS when they are stressed out and dealing with the rigor of school. And it's a very prestigious technology school, and they are just wildly changing the way that these kids on campus are engaging with art in like the nerdiest of terms. And it's really cool. I mean, I could go on and on about the veterans' lives that I've seen change, and how men and women who are so adamantly against therapy come into this space with their head in the sand and they don't want to have anything to do with it. And then they leave coming back and saying, I want 9 more weeks, or can we talk to the VA about getting the actual therapy now? Because I think I'm ready. And
Wow.
so like, and as a Marine, like that, those are the most impactful stories, because the last thing I want is to see a brother or sister be gone. And I've watched therapeutic TTRPG save people's lives. I've seen people come from the brink of not wanting to be here anymore to now being some of the most successful entrepreneurs because of applied TTRPGs and therapeutic gaming. And so the sky's the limit, and I could give you 1,001 anecdotes, right? And when people ask that question, it's hard because I don't know where to tell the story, what example to give. But from veterans to students to aging men who didn't know that they were struggling with gender identity, I think that's probably one of my most beloved stories. Is an individual was struggling with their own gender and identity, and they had been playing a female character for decades and had no idea that that was so much a part of them, that they went to therapy outside of gaming and realized, oh my God, like I feel safer when I'm here, and was playing with 6 other very straight, very cisgender dudes. And when this individual came out, they didn't come out as female, they came out as non-binary, as he, she, and they. And these dudes accepted this human so beautifully, and like it wasn't even a thing, because they've been playing together for decades. And this character had been part of their story for so long that it actually made sense. And this human is so much happier knowing that they played through some therapeutic TTRPG, went back to their actual home game, continued to play through that, and went to therapy with their therapist and realized, wow, this is what's going on. And it's just so amazing to see what an applied setting can do for someone who may be playing this game for generations and seeing it through a different lens, where it's not so rigid and rule focused and mechanic focused, but allowing a further role play story where the story is the heaviest part of the experience and the combat is secondary, if that makes sense.
That was incredible. It's everything I wanted this interview to be. I needed all of that. That was so cool. Thank you for sharing it. We're running short on time, but I wanted to ask, did we forget to ask anything, or is there anything else that you'd like to talk about?
I don't think so. Again, that can be very loaded. I can talk all day. So I think that the biggest takeaway is D&D is not therapy. No TTRPG is therapy unless it is provided by a therapist in a setting where you have a treatment plan, a goal, and either one-on-one or group session. So please do not, DMs, GMs, storytellers, keepers, please do not use this to go therapize your friends. That is so unethical, and you will do far more harm than you will do good, even if you think you are doing good. If you want to do good and you want to be more mindful and approachable in this modality, please come hit us up, come to class, come see me at Gen Con if you're at Gen Con or any of the other conventions around the country. But please do not do this without having the proper training and or being a therapist. Therapeutic gaming is beautiful, and everybody can provide therapeutic gaming if trained correctly. So again, please don't just jump into a game and say, hey, we're going to work on your shit today. Please don't do that. But come see us, come chat. I'll be at Gen Con all week, and I'll be in games. We'll be having panels on burnout and imposter syndrome and struggling gamers. So come hang out. But I don't think we missed anything. I think there's always more to talk about in this space because it is so beautiful and it is so new. But if you're wanting to seek out geek therapy because you're nerdy and you don't think a therapist understands you, please come find us at geektherapeutics.com. We will hook you up with a therapist wherever you are. We do accept all major insurances. And if you're looking for TTRPG specific therapeutic groups, we will provide those for you at a very short fee and or covered by your insurance.
Excellent. That's awesome. Alicia, I apologize. My brain is,
It's
misfiring
okay.
here.
It's late.
But I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time with us today. It's been really great getting to know more about Geek Therapeutics and how you all support the gaming community. And we really thank you for all the work that you're doing.
Yeah, thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for coming in, checking us out, and wanting to have a conversation that is extremely meaningful for so many of us around the country.
And thanks as always for spending time with us this week. Please check us out on our Instagram account or at our website, infernalschoolhouse.com. Oh, and we sell stuff on Etsy too.
And then just a quick reminder that we are now live streaming our Monster of the Week campaign on Twitch. You can watch our bi-weekly live episodes at twitch.tv/Infernal Schoolhouse, with our next one on July 1st. Let's only stick around for around 7 days on Twitch, so catch our past episodes at youtube.com/@Infernal Schoolhouse. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.